Did the world's largest country just steal Donald Trump's Bitcoin plan? Russia is now quietly, yeah, that's right, quietly making a move into Bitcoin as their leader, Vladimir Putin, has announced something very, very close to what the Trump's team has announced. Let's not forget, this isn't new for Russia. They've been making moves into Bitcoin for quite some time now. They recently approved Bitcoin mining earlier this year and now are experimenting with Bitcoin cross-border payments. But what is the move that they are looking to copy Donald Trump's team? They've been making many other moves, and they've been hinting at using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions. So let's dive into everything that has been leaked here recently. A Russian lawmaker has proposed creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Very, very interesting timing here. After Donald Trump gets elected, we now have multiple, that's right, multiple folks, nation states looking to get a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So Anton Tekachev, oh, look at that, a little Russian accent for the folks at home, has performed assessing the feasibility of creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve in Russia by analogy with state reserves in traditional currencies. So what does he want to do that? They want to assess the feasibility. This would help counter the threat posed to Russia financial stability posed by sanctions, inflation, and volatility of traditional currencies. So this would be an apparent echo of the plan of what is going on in the United States proposed by the one and only Donald Trump. So Trump's economic policies around Bitcoin are making waves across the globe where people are eyeing what he's doing and paying attention. So this report was actually leaked. It was not supposed to be meant to go to the public. The Russian lawmakers were not trying to use this as a ploy, but he asked to assess the feasibility. Yes, dear Anton Germanovich, to assess the feasibility. If this initiative is approved, I ask you to submit it to the government of the Russian Federation for further implementation. So there's a lot of things that have gone on in this past year that have threatened Russia. Now, one of the main ones being the sanctions placed on by the United States. So Russia has been toying with using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions for international trade, as Russia is one of the most energy dense countries in the world. No question about it. The BRICS nations are very energy dense. And so part of their success is due to trading with other countries around the globe. So if the US puts on these sanctions, it's not good. But Russia has proposed this, like I said, the strategic reserve, and use it both as a store of value and an opportunity to reap potential profits. So this letter has been obtained, and it's detained by a news outlet, and it essentially got a little leak to the public. But what else are the reasonings for this? It's because Russia's looking to escape the dollar, euro, and yuan risks. It understands that all other currencies are extremely volatile, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. So Russia is using this to protect themselves essentially, and look at how they can avoid some economic instability that they have zero control over at this point. So if you're going to have zero control over it, at least have it where it's just Bitcoin, right? Because if it's Bitcoin, nobody has control over it. Whereas in the other cases, the euro, the dollar, all these other places, it's all controlled by outside governments. So they can manipulate their currency to hurt Russia and the Russian government. So Russia is looking at implementing this strategic reserve for a multitude of reasons. But it's also to help with its potential economic resilience. Geopolitical instability, all these different aspects can drastically affect the Russian economy. And so the reserves are, a new frontier. It would help with this economic and geopolitical shift, which will, can be opposed to keeping it conventional currency reserves and, potentially being hit with some sanctions and inflation. Bitcoin can be used as a safe haven for Russia to continue international trade, to continue with its economic prosperity, and it would not have to be worried about that. And it's all kind of coincidental timing. As we mentioned, Bitcoin has, been in the news. It's, Trump is one of the leaders when it comes to speaking about Bitcoin in its economic policy. Well, now, not only that, we have Bitcoin hitting 100K, and there's just a lot of headlines. But is this Russia's first time really making waves when it comes to Bitcoin? No, it's not. Spoiler alert. Russia's been very into the Bitcoin mining space. So, on top of not only, using Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, Russia's legalized crypto and Bitcoin mining and has kind of moved forward with that. So, in the past month and a half or so, we've seen Russia legalize Bitcoin mining, which was previously illegal, and has allowed the central banks to allow selected companies to conduct cross border settlements and exchange in Bitcoin. So, cross border payments are being made in Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining becomes legalized, and now they're proposing a strategic reserve. It seems like Russia might be one of the most bullish countries when it comes to Bitcoin. And on top of that, recently, Vladimir Putin signed a law that declared Bitcoin and crypto as personal property. So that's very interesting timing as well, right? Because Bitcoin's personal property, which means it's under a different tax law, different tax haven than maybe the general types of, assets. It's looked at as more as property, less of a tax hit than, day trading stocks, other things like that. Looked at as personal property. What's another big country that just recently did that as well? It's China. China and Russia have very similar views when it comes to Bitcoin here, as far as like denominating it as property, which I think is very interesting and a very interesting aspect of all of this. But let's rewind it here a second, right? Because Russia is now going all in on strategic reserve Bitcoin mining and is also having it as personal property. China doesn't allow businesses to utilize Bitcoin, but Russia is allowing businesses to conduct cross-border payments, cross-border trade utilizing Bitcoin, which I think is very important. There's very few countries that are bullish enough on Bitcoin to allow that to occur. And that's why I think Russia is the most bullish country, if not one of the most bullish countries when it comes to Bitcoin, because of all of the policies I just laid out here. So, on top of looking at what the US is doing, they're looking at utilizing one of the most energy dense countries in the world to mine Bitcoin as well. It's reducing its reliance on the United States for a dollar of international trade as well. It is kind of an interesting little aspect where they're looking at utilizing Bitcoin for international trade to get away from the dollar because, Donald Trump has already kind of threatened massive amounts of tariffs if, countries across the globe start to use anything but the dollar for international trade. But on the flip side of things, this would be bullish for Bitcoin, and Trump is utilizing Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. So it would kind of help pump the Bitcoin bags, but also would be a negative for the dollar. So all of this is intertwined. It is very interesting to see how this goes, but it's interesting that a big issue or big factor why Russia is looking to go towards Bitcoin is to get away from the dollar, get away from the euro, and remove its existence, remove its reliance on the United States and other countries as far as like um, regulating its overall economy. And so Russia is also looked to be keeping up with the U.S. with nation state Bitcoin FOMO. Their entity will boost hash rate, strengthen network fundamentals, and diversify miner politics. So the Chinese mining pools control about 57% of the Bitcoin hash rate. The US has 35, and now we'll see Russia try to take some of that hash rate. And so, as I stated earlier, Russia is a part of BRICS, right? So it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And many other countries are applying to join the BRICS as well. They've announced that they were looking into an alternative currency, their own cryptocurrency previously, to conduct international trade. And then shortly after, Russia passed this law in allowing businesses to utilize different currency outside of the dollar to conduct international trade. So I think the BRICS, although it's got some headwind, and will kind of start to increase its power, I don't necessarily see BRICS passing the United States and like not utilizing the dollar for a long period of time, especially with the use of the Bitcoin strategic reserve, thus strengthening the dollar. So I think with all of this, Russia will, focus on developing a unified BRICS currency with the state deputy. And part of looking into this is utilizing a Bitcoin strategic reserve to back that currency. So this could be the true first hard currency that we have in quite some time since we got off the gold standard. I would be interested if the BRICS starts to propose something along the lines of a currency that is backed by Bitcoin. Yeah, BRICS currency, BRICS dollar, whatever you want to call it, BRICS peso, BRICS euro, whatever it is, backed by Bitcoin. Now you have my attention. Now this is something that could potentially move things forward. But on the flip side of things, there's also some bearish arguments of Russia getting very involved with Bitcoin and the crypto industry to a lesser extent. Part of the major FUD that we've seen is that Bitcoin is, used by criminals, and Russia marketing that they're going to utilize crypto and Bitcoin to avoid sanctions does not necessarily help that narrative. Now, there was a lot of financial pressures, the Western sanctions, whether you think that they're, correct or not, is really beside the point. The fact that Russia is looking at crypto as a way and Bitcoin as a way to get around these sanctions is not necessarily the best marketing tactic in the world, right? So I think that the newly legalized crypto section can help evade sanctions and thus undermine the dollar. So with all this being said, that's not going to make the United States very happy, right? It's not going to make the US happy that Russia is openly trying to explore ways to evade sanctions, openly trying to find ways in order to, not utilize the dollar and move towards a potential BRICS currency, maybe even backed by Bitcoin. And it's not helping the fact that we're seeing Bitcoin, being grouped in with, potential nefarious activities. But I do think that this is a very positive move in the way forward. And we're seeing, Putin sign different tax laws, look at Bitcoin very differently comparatively to other countries in the world, where they're going to look at, they would like to regulate it, tax it, all that kind of stuff, right? So, I think it is a positive for everything going forward. Seems like Russia is really embracing Bitcoin and the crypto industry to a lesser extent, but mostly the Bitcoin industry, right? Because they're going to utilize Bitcoin mining, utilize a Bitcoin strategic reserve, and now Bitcoin is looked at as personal property. So all three of those things are the magic trifecta of what we've got going on here for Bitcoin in Russia. And on top of that, BRICS, BR, right? That R in BRICS is for Russia, is considering, creating their own currency, and part of that would be utilizing it for international trade. Now, Russia's already proposed utilizing crypto for international trade, right? And they've passed a law with all of that. So I think on top of that, Russia continuing to move forward with, the Bitcoin policies and the taxation and all those things are extremely bullish when it comes to Bitcoin. And, we're seeing it reflect in the price as well, right? We're seeing Bitcoin sitting over 100K, just dancing over here, having a great day at 101.74 at the time of this recording. And I think a big part of that is because of the nation state FOMO that we're seeing. And I don't think the impact of President Trump announcing a Bitcoin strategic reserve can be undermined at this point. We've got the Bitcoin strategic reserve, we've got so much more just coming here with this. And then on top of that, Russia is also embracing Bitcoin mining and making it personal property. So doing a full 180 and on a very large country in the country of Russia, which would give access to give Bitcoin access to millions of people throughout the entire country. So if you're new here, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you guys all at the next one.